What is up, you guys? I'm Roof Gaming, and we are back at it again with another build video. Today I'm going to be showcasing my Gladiator class for PvE and possibly PvP, and we're going to get into it. So hopefully you guys enjoy the build video, and if you like the content ahead, just leave a like and subscribe or comment what I can improve or do better. Until then, let's get started. Alright, you guys, let's get started with the gear. We're going to be running the Forgotten Lotus mask, specifically for the heavy attack chance, cooldown speed, and the perception 6. Because the perception or any kind of stat points or any kind of stats will just add to my stat points. With the Forgotten Lotus pants, specifically because I'm trying to proc the 2-piece set for the Forgotten Lotus for 110 evasion to all my evasion. And this comes with dexterity 4, hit chance, added attack speed, max health, so pretty good. The mask comes with perception 6, cooldown speed 5.1, heavy attack chance, and mana regen. Now keep in mind the mana regen is really nice on my build in general because it's going to help with my mana, because using spear in general takes a lot of mana, so keep that in mind. We're going to be running the Imperial Seeker's tunic with the Imperial Seeker's boots for that 15% critical hit damage, with that 10% extra critical hit damage, or up to 10% critical hit damage. So every time I land a critical hit, it adds 1% critical hit damage, so that'll bring me up to a total of 25%. And being that the build has pretty decent critical hit chance, I think we're going to be hitting a lot of crits, keeping this bonus active for this armor set. I chose the chest piece because it has heavy attack chance, as well as critical hit chance. Then it has dexterity plus 6 that adds to my stat points. And for the boots, I chose the boots because of the strength 4 and a perception 4. The critical hit chance and a hit chance will also add to the build, because one thing I know is that spears have a very hard time landing their hits, so hit chance on a spear build or using a spear weapon is pretty important. This is one of my favorite armor sets. This is a Devious Hellfire Grips. These go crazy. Perception 6, cooldown speed 5.2%, heavy attack chance 90, and added attack speed 5.2%. Everything on these gloves we absolutely need them. The Perception 6 is really nice because it adds once again to the stat points. We're going to be running the Opulent Noble's Mantle because it has hit chance, mana regen, and cooldown speed of 5.2%. I like the mana regen and the cooldown speed and the hit chance because once again, it helps with the spear build and it does help with keeping my mana up. So that's going to be for the armor set. We're now going to move to the accessories. We have the Death Nail Gorget because it, and I use this because of the ranged and magic evasion. The added attack speed and dexterity 4 is a plus. Primal Golden Clubs because these come with heavy attack chance. That's specifically why I'm using these, but the Strength 4 and a hit chance with the mana regen is also huge for this build. The Ring of Celestial Light, and the reason I'm running this is because Dexterity 6 and a Perception 4, as long as the biggest bonus, the mana cost efficiency plus 8%. This keeps my mana up, so in the case that I have fast cooldown speed or attack speed at the same time, and which this build does have, I can keep my mana up, which means I'll never really run out of mana to dish out skill damage. Ruined Band of the Anvil because of the Perception 5 and the Wisdom 4 with heavy attack chance and Strength 4. This is huge for my stat points, and I would say if nobody's running this ring, you should. If you don't have it, the best way to get it, in my opinion, would be to go to Nebula Island. If you're not going to go there, then just save up Lucent, buy the lithograph, and then make the ring yourself. Hero's Legacy War Belt for the added attack speed, dexterity 4, strength 6, and then the health regen is just there just to be there. Nice little additive bonus, but I use this belt mostly for my stat points. So yes, that's going to be the full armor set and why I use the pieces that I use. For our weapons, we're going to be running the Hellskewer Spear, the Crimson Hellskewer Spear, because of the Crimson's Lantern's ability, which is damage dealt by Vicious Fury, Brutal Fury, and Explosive Fury increases by 8% on critical hit. Cooldown of Cyclonic Fury and Phoenix Barrage decreases by 5% proportionate to time remaining. Being that the build revolves around critical hit chance and heavy attack chance, this will be proccing like constantly, and we're going to be using the Grey Eyes Bloodlust Greatsword mostly for the 8% cooldown speed it has to get my attack rotation quicker, but it also has an ability I don't really care too much about, but I'll read it anyway. Grey Eyes Vitality. On using Da Vinci's Courage, health regen effect disappears, base damage increases by 16, and duration increases by 1.5 seconds. Duration is not terrible, and obviously the base damage increases by 16, which is okay. It's really not great, but the Da Vinci's Courage was mostly used for regen, but being that the weapon had some alterations to it, I just decided that the reason I got this was really for the cooldown speed, and that is the only reason why I got this sword. Alright, you guys, we're going to be going over rune allocation and how the runes are going to help with common stats and my stat points as I had described earlier. Alright, the Crimson Hellskewer Spear is going to be running a red, yellow, and blue rune synergy for an additional dexterity 4 and an attack speed of 3.5%. A lot of people use skill damage boosts. I like heavy attack chance, so we're going to be running melee heavy attack chance, healing, and max health. Keep in mind when you see the healing and the max health is because the healing scales with my Victor's morale and the max health scales with my vital force. Alright, you guys, what's up? So, alright, you guys, we're going to be getting into the rune synergy list and what runes I use, starting with the Crimson Hellskewer Spear. We're going to be running the red, yellow, blue rune synergy for an additional dexterity 4 and attack speed of 3.5%. A lot of people run skill damage boost. I like melee heavy attack chance, so we're going to be running melee heavy attack chance, healing, and max health. The reason I'm running healing and max health is because healing scales with my Victor's morale, and my max health scales with my vital force, which adds more attack power to my build. For the Grey Eye Sword, it's going to be the same exact rune synergies and the same exact runes being held on the main weapon. The Hero's Legacy's War Belt is going to be a rune synergy of yellow, blue, red for an additional movement speed of 3.5% and max health 600. I'll be running mana cost efficiency max health, and boss melee heavy attack chance. Now, if you don't have a chaos rune for that max health, I would highly recommend just running a blue health, max health, a regular max health. Death Nail Gorget. It will be running the red, yellow, blue synergy for an additional wisdom of 3 and max health of 800, and this will have boss melee heavy attack chance, healing, and max health. I felt like this was the best option, being that I do fight a lot of bosses on my runs, or mini bosses. Primal Golden Cuffs with yellow, blue, red, blue synergy with attack speed at 3.5%, max health 600. I'll be running this with mana cost efficiency, max health, and melee heavy attack chance. The reason I'm running, once again, the mana cost efficiency is because there was no other better yellow runes that I could use. So I chose that one, and plus it helps with keeping my mana up during attack rotations. Ring of Celestial Light will have a rune synergy of yellow, red, blue for cooldown speed of 3.5% and strength 3. Now keep in mind this build does revolve around cooldown speed. I believe every build should run cooldown speed and attack speed to get your attack rotations quickly, so this is one of the best rune synergies to have on your accessories. We'll be running this with healing, melee critical hit chance, and then more healing. Now keep in mind, once again, if you don't have if you don't have the chaos rune for healing, I would say run another max health, you'll be fine. Rune Band of the Black Anvil. Rune Synergy will have yellow, red, blue for a cooldown speed of 3.5%, strength 3, and this will have healing, melee critical hit chance, and max health. The reason I'm running max health on this is because I don't have another additional plus 5% healing, so I chose the max health. Now, if you don't have this, I'm going to say it again, just use a regular max health, you will be fine. Now, if you guys are wondering why this build is built the way it is, it's because, like I said, we also have a lot of regenerative abilities. We're now going to be moving on. We're now going to bring it back to our stat details and stat points. For my stat points, it's going to be 50 strength to get my heavy attack chance plus 100, dexterity 72 for that critical hit chance of 60 and that evasion of 120, wisdom 50 for that cooldown speed of 5%, perception 40 for that buff duration of 5%, as well as an additional hit chance 100. So, very good stuff. This comes from my armor sets, and this comes from my accessories, as well as my rune synergies. So keep that in mind, we did just go over that. Stat details. I'm only going to go over the stats that are important on the build. Defensive procedures and everything else is what it is. Alright, so we're going to start with the obvious. We have a max health of 19.9k, max mana 8100, mana cost efficiency of 20%, which is very good because that means that I won't be consuming as much mana as your average player without mana cost efficiency. Healing of 20.75%, which is very good. And the reason that healing is important is because, once again, I will be receive healing from Victor's morale. So having my healing up actually increases the amount of healing I will be receiving to keep my survivability going. Health regen of 1.8k every 10 seconds, mana regen of 1.1k, almost 1.2k every 10 seconds. Cooldown speed of 51.4%. It's very good for cooldown speed. Attack speed of 54.25%. Now, for a build like mine, that's kind of low for a base stat, but I have a lot of skill abilities that are going to enhance the build's attack speed, so this isn't really too important, so I wouldn't worry about this. Healing received plus 13%. Increases the amount healed by skills used on the user, so I think this is pretty nice. And this would be just any kind of skills in general, so I think healing receive is good. Alright. Moving on to our regular stat details on the bottom, we're going to have melee hit chance of 1.4k, melee critical hit chance of almost 1.5k, melee heavy attack chance of over 1,000, which is very good. So we'll keep heavy attack chance dishing out, which is the purple numbers with the times 2, so I'll be doing basically double the damage on a regular. Melee evasion of 563.6. It's because I chose to spec into more range evasion and magic evasion, so it is kind of low. But I do have defensive procedures in play throughout the build that I will explain later that can cover for this. Range evasion of 1.1k, magic evasion of 1.2k. We're going to scroll down to our damages. Skill damage boost to 220.6, which is very good. Bonus damage of 36, critical hit damage 38.7%. That's not including the critical hit damage you receive from the armor sets and every other set going through. Buff duration 34.4%, which is nice, and debuff duration of negative 10.62%. So the build is definitely gliding along very nicely, and I am liking exactly how it turned out. Alright, we are now going to go over our artifact lineup and what artifacts we'll be using. I'm going to be running the 6-piece Chaos Harbinger, and the reason I'm running the 6-piece Chaos Harbinger is because of the set effects that the 6-piece gives you, which would be critical hit chance 100, critical hit damage plus 9%, critical hit chance 125. And we are also going to be running the Chaos Harbinger Solar Stone with the ability increase critical hit chance schema for 10 seconds on each attack, hit, magic, melee, and range. Critical hit chance increases by 100. Stacks up to 10 times as removed upon a successful critical hit. This basically means that if I'm not landing critical hits, right, it's going to increase my critical hit chance until I do, meaning I'll be able to crit a lot more. And we're going to be running the Shield Smash schema because it gives me a 15% critical hit damage boost for 3 seconds on attacking a target with shield status. Now, I don't really know if this is going to be useful, but I run this specifically because I need it for the 6-piece scheme setup. And it seems like each one in the Moonstone has that, so that's fine. Moving over to our talistones, my upper left corner talistone is going to have, or my talistone 1 is going to have humanoid bonus damage 6, melee heavy attack chance 60, melee hit chance 60. My talistone 2 is going to have melee defense 72, wildkin damage reduction, humanoid damage reduction. My talistone 3 is going to have potion healing 30%, healing received 5%, and bind resistance 40. And my Talistone 4 is going to have melee hit chance, heavy attack evasion, and melee heavy attack chance. Now, if by any chance I find something better, I will probably switch that out. But for what it is right now, these are some of my best Talistones at the moment for this. And clearly, we went over the Chaos Harbinger Solar Stone with bind chance 36, collision chance 60, and Chaos Harbinger Lunar Stone with collision resistance and CC resistance 12. So if I do find something better, that'd be nice. But these are the stats that my runes are actually giving me. Or, well, not runes, talistones, sorry. So those are pretty good passive stats to have, in my opinion, and it does add to the build in a way that most people don't see or pay attention to. Alright, you guys, we're going to be going over our skill passives, skill specializations, skills, and skill rotation. This is very important. It's going to take time. There are two variations of this. We have the boss variation of how to destroy bosses, and we have the mob destroyer variation, which helps us destroy mobs. Now, let's get started with the boss destroyer variation. We're going to be starting with the passives of Retaliatory Strike for that additional critical hit chance. The Immortal Wrath because it guarantees a heavy attack chance at 30% or below health that the enemy may have. Fatal Precision because we are constantly applying Burn, Ignite, and Burst stacks. So this will keep active for that additional 2.9% attack speed up to 14.6% attack speed. We'll be running Malice Surge because it has a 5% chance to increase our heavy attack chance by 212, and because main bosses don't stun lock or do none of that stuff, I had to change out a few things. Vital Force because it increases our magic melee and range hit chance by 202, skill damage by 0.35, and stun chance by 0.425 for every 100 health that I have. So this is just passive damage that I don't really have to work for, so this is extremely important to have on your build. Imposing form because it's a 10% chance to increase skill damage boost by 130 upon using a greatsword or a spear, which is all we use. Robust constitution for the additional health pool for 2150 and by 94 health regen. And last but not least, our most important staple to the build are Victor's morale. This one's huge. I would recommend running this if you want to stay alive as a gladiator. All right, next we're going to be going into our skills, skill specializations, and skill rotations. This is extremely important because this is what's going to be the staple to our build. So we're going to get started now. Starting off, we're going to start with our buffs. We have the Unyielding Sentinel for that increase CC increase by 410, and I believe that it also increases our heavy attack chance per target within 8 meters for 3 seconds up to 5 targets. So that's huge. Starting off the build with this will definitely help out. Da Vinci's Courage, all right, with the duration increase skill specialization, because this actually takes away the regenerative effect from the Bloodlust Sword and adds damage instead. And there's a few other redeeming stats it also adds from the Weapon Mastery tree, which I will describe later. The Blood Leech aura with the frequent Blood Leech and Bloodlust skill specialization, because it's going to continue keeping heals up, especially if I'm in the middle of a heated battle. Just popping this will keep my passive heals going for more survivability. We have Calling Arc in this tree only because I had nowhere else to put it, but since we're covering it, we're going to have this with the damage increase and burst skill specialization to increase the burst stacks that the build will throw out, which will then add to my Slaughtering Slash later, in which I will describe how that skill works. Moving forward, we have Precision Dash because of the with effect duration increase, because this increases our heavy attack chance by 160 for 3 seconds, which is huge. And with the duration increase, it gives me an additional 1.5, so it's technically 4.5 seconds that heavy attack chance is up. And even though 4.5 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, I attack so quickly that that 4 seconds can literally significantly boost my damage. Next, we're going to be moving to Phoenix Barrage with the Phoenix Barrage specialization, conditional damage specialization, and critical aftermath skill specialization. And the reason is because the critical aftermath increases my critical damage by 15%. Conditional damage will increase my damage for this skill by 20% against bound or locked in opponents. And the Phoenix Barrage, just because it activates the ability to attack 10 times. Moving forward, we now have the Explosive Fury specialization just to activate Explosive Fury to get my Ignite stacks going. And all of this will then proc into Slaughtering Slash, which is extremely important. We run this with explosive damage and the Slaughtering Slash skill specialization. Now keep in mind, the more burst stacks or Ignite stacks that I have, as well as, the more burst and ignite stacks that I have, the harder this build hits. Now, here's what I mean by that. The explosive damage increase goes up by 20% from that skill specialization. So, with the burst stacks and the ignite, they both stack into that, which means this will constantly continue to do a multiplicative damage of 20% plus. Moving forward, we have Gale Rush with Initiative Blitz, effect duration increase, all right. And the reason Initiative Blitz is important is because when we're attacking a boss, it automatically activates the maximum attack speed that this skill does give you. And the effect duration increase is by another 1.5 seconds. So if the attack speed is increased for 3 seconds, it now goes up to 4.5 seconds, which once again, this is what adds to my precision dash. So the attack speed, along with the Fatal Precision's attack speed from my passive, along with the precision dash's heavy attack chance, all tie in together, causing significant damage within that 4.5 seconds that we are attacking. Stunning blow with cooldown and increasing my damage by 150% for a set amount of time, and the cooldown speed negative 15% just to keep this skill in constant rotation. Right after that, we have Ascending Slash. These two tie in together as well. You have to have these two next to each other in this exact order because when an enemy is stunned and then you use Ascending Slash, it will actually send them prone. It even says it in its description. It says has an 80% chance to apply collision prone against bound, sleeping, or stunned targets. So stunned, along with that 80% chance, will most likely prone a target. Now, in most cases, fighting against bosses, this wouldn't do too much, but I really use these two for the damage increase against bosses, just so that damage increase can now pass over to my Guillotine Blade, which is a very hard hitting skill. And I have this with charge time or charge damage and cooldown time. Now, most people run it with the AoE, but since this is my boss variation attack pattern, I won't really need that AoE there, so it'd be a waste of points, so I put it into other things. So, just really quickly, we're going to go over the skill specialization tree one more time, just to show you guys what I'm running for each skill, and then we're going to move over to the Mob Destroyer rotation. Precision Dash, Stunning Blow, Da Vinci's Courage for that increased duration for 3 seconds, Ascending Slash, Guillotine Blade, and that'll be for the great swords, and then for the spears, we'll be running Calling Arc, Explosive Fury, Gale Rush, Bloodleech Aura, Slaughtering Slash, Phoenix Barrage, and that will be for this attack rotation. And just remember to keep your skills in this exact attack rotation for each one. This exact attack rotation. Now, if you want to switch around the buffs, that's fine. Do whatever works for you. I like calling Arc here because after finishing my first attack rotation and then moving into my second attack rotation, I throw in Calling Arc to reset all the stacks after running Slaughtering Slash so that I can keep burst stacks in constant rotation with this build, keeping Slaughtering Slash relevant for damage. Next, we're going to be moving into our Mob Destroyer. Skill specialization, skill rotation, and passives. Now, just like my Boss Destroyer, I have Retaliatory Strike, Mortal Wrath, Fatal Precision, but this is different. I have Cold Warrior, and that's because most mobs actually get stunned, so this adds an additional critical hit chance to my build. And we are now running Raging Frenzy, because Raging Frenzy increases our attack power or skill damage boost by 120 against 3 or more targets, which we will be fighting. So these are actually the two differences in the build for the Mob Destroyer for passives. So keep that in mind that these two are very good, and they can be used in pretty much any situation, especially against mini bosses. For my attack rotation, some things have changed, and I'm going to explain why. Starting off, we have Precision Dash with Bind, and the reason we have it with Bind is because this will scale with Phoenix Barrage. Now keep in mind that most bosses don't get binded, most bosses don't get affected by Binded, and Bind takes 10 skill specializations to use. So that's why I'm running Bind on this, because most mobs do get binded. This will then tie into my Phoenix Barrage's conditional damage, which is the 20% additional damage added to bound, stunned, or oppressed targets, which they will be bound by the Precision Dash. Explosive Fury is the same as it was in the Boss Destroyer rotation, and now this is one of our newer builds, and this one is important. Okay, we also have the same rotation for our debuffs as well. The only issue is that we don't have the constant cooldown on the Blood Leech Aura. We changed that and we put the points towards Bind because it does take 10 points to use. Now this one is extremely important for mob destroying. Javelin Infernal. So for any kind of stacks I have, whether it be burst or ignite, in which this will give me a good amount of ignite, this will activate the Javelin Inferno's ability to attack 5 times. This causes a massive AoE in the area, the more enemies that are grouped up, and it destroys them, significantly boosting your healing capabilities and survivability. And it will automatically cools down every time you activate burst or you activate ignite on the enemy. So this will be in constant skill rotation to clear mobs. So this is a huge staple. I have done a lot of testing. This is the best mob destroyer we have for this build. Moving on, we have Gale Rush, this time with just initiative blitz. All right. We have Stunning Blow with the same exact thing as the Boss Destroyer build. Ascending Slash is the same exact thing as the mob destroyer, as the boss destroyer build. And last but not least, if you guys have noticed, we put slaughtering slash here with bursting echo, explosive damage, and slaughtering slash. Now, if you guys notice, there is an additional skill on this called bursting echo. What this does is this causes an AoE to happen. It is a very fast ability, and we took out guillotine blade just to throw an inferno javelin to cause a AoE to constantly keep happening, calling art to keep the burst stacks up, so then we can then use slaughtering slash. The bursting echo actually causes AoE within a 3 meter radius, all right, for anybody who is hit by this skill. So we'll get our two massive AoEs from Soldering Slash and Javelin Inferno. So if you follow this exact rotation, as I had said before, one, you'll bind for maximum damage of 20% of Phoenix Barrage along with all the conditional damage, then passing into Explosive Fury, so that extra 15% critical hit damage now passes into Explosive Fury, causing massive damage directly into Infernal Javelin, which clears out entire areas and causes massive healing for your build, especially if you're fighting an entire mob, directly into Gale Rush, which will increase your attack speed and give you a burst stack if possible, along with Stunning and Ascending, which will then significantly increase your skill damage boost and skill damage directly into Slaughtering Slash that does grab all that burst and ignite stack bonuses. The one thing that is similar across the grid for this build is the patient block. Make sure you guys are running patient block. It is a lot better than Iron Point Parry because this adds an additional 20% critical hit damage increase for 3 seconds. So keep that in mind. And just so you guys aren't confused, I'm going to show you guys the skill specialization tree one more time. Stunning Blow, Bind, Ascending Slash, Da Vinci's Courage. Moving down to the Spear, Calling Arc, Gale Rush, Javelin Inferno, Bloody Chora, Explosive Fury, Slaughtering Slash, and Phoenix Barrage. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. I covered down what I could for this build, so I think you guys really like where this build goes, and we're going to see what happens. We are now going to be moving towards the more complicated version of the build, which is our weapon mastery tree. Now, a lot of people have a lot of trouble trying to figure out what passives they're going to activate on their skills, what points they're going to be putting in. This is the point system that I ended up coming up with for the Greatsword, and I will show you the spear right after. But this is what I went with. I'm not going to highlight the smaller stats too much, but I'm going to be highlighting mostly the passives and the epic rank masteries. So we're going to start with the epic rank masteries and then work our way towards the passives. Our first epic rank mastery is going to be critical equilibrium, which increases our critical damage by an additional 12% when our health is 50% or higher. Keep in mind we're going to keep heals constantly going, so this will be in constant rotation of being active. If our health does drop below 50%, however, we get critical hit damage resistance by 12%. Badass skill. You need this. Nothing else matters. Use this. The next epic rank mastery I'm going to be using is going to be Blade Harvest. This is a significant staple to the build. For healing, I would recommend use this. If you're not going to use this, then at least spec more into attack power. Restores 10% of damage dealt as health for 3 seconds after using movement skills with a Greatsword. Has a 10-second cooldown. This is important with Precision Dash, because Precision Dash is one of the movement skills I do use. So yes, this is important. So when our attack rotations restart after all the damage we've done to the build, and we go back to Precision Dash, we get all that back for 3 seconds. So, huge. Once again, I'm going to read it to you. Restores 10% of damage dealt as health for 3 seconds after using movement skills. So if we're dishing out an insane amount of damage, let's just say we're using our mob destroyer build and we just cleared out a whole mob and then I decide to attack somebody else, all that health comes right back to me. So it's what saved me several times against boss battles, against mobs who were absolutely destroying me. So please, please, I would recommend using this. Please. Now we're going to be moving passives. We're going to be turning Raging Frenzy into Reckless Assault. It increases our skill damage boost efficiency by 50%, but decreases defense by 200. The next passive we're going to be going over will be Fortified Unity. This directly counters the debuff for the 200 defense by adding 300 defense every time I use Da Vinci's Courage. Thus is why I use the duration increase. This also Another thing is the duration increase with the Da Vinci's Courage also scales with the Grey Eyes Bloodlust damage skill, which increases our damage by 24 for the amount of time that the Da Vinci's Courage is active. Now, personally, I like the regenerative ability from the Da Vinci's Courage, but being that the Grey Eyes Sword just takes it away and I don't really have a choice, I really do use the sword for the cooldown anyway. So that's fine. And we will be going over those two weapons in a moment. Alright? The next passive we're going to be running is going to be Power Grip. This gives 24 attack power proportionate to the skills growth tier. So, if I'm not mistaken, there are 15 skill growth tiers that you put into a passive as well as your skills. So, 15 times 24 will be around 360 bonus attack power. This is a must. I would recommend using this, so please do. Yes, you lose 50% health, so you'll be at 1075 health, but you will gain 360 attack power instantly just for having this in your passive. So you need this. Use it. Dauntless Recovery will add to Victor's morale. Instead of restoring 9 health and 28 mana, which is not much, you will be restoring 1% of the skill damage as health. So if I'm doing significant damage with the skill, that 1% will be a lot more than 9 health. Use this. Extended Reach, which increases the range of Precision Dash by 20%. This allows me to save points on my skill specialization tree and keep that 20% reach, that 20% range increase at the same time. The rest of the abilities that I have are right here. I would highly recommend screenshotting this and taking this with you and then applying the points as you see fit, and it will activate this tree. Keep in mind that my weapon mastery is 168 on the Greatsword. It is pretty high. If you don't have 168 weapon mastery, I would recommend weapon mastery books, saving your abyssal toques, and running the, I don't know what event, the squid ink dishes uh, that you can cook by fishing and getting the noodles from the battle pass or your dailies, just to get your weapon mastery up as well. If you could put that with a mastery book, you'll instantly have a 100% weapon mastery bonus and you can get your stuff up. Just a little passive tip. All right. All right, on to our spear weapon mastery tree. All right, we're gonna do the same rotation we did with the great sword. Start off with the epic rank masteries. We're going to be starting off with Explosive Force. This is huge for our build. If you're not running this, you are doing yourself a great injustice. Explosive explosion damage with Rising Slash or Slaughtering Slash increases by 20% per stack when causing a burst or ignite explosion. Remember what I told you. Keep in mind, we will keep constant burst and ignite damage on a regular basis. It goes up to 5, so this will be 120% added damage on top of the 20% we already get from the damage increase on the Slaughtering Slash skill specialization, bringing Slaughtering Slash an additional 140% skill damage on that attack ability. That shit's insane. Run this. You're not running this, you're not doing enough damage then. Supreme Burst. The damage boost effect on target with 5 burst stacks is additionally boosted by 7%. Keep in mind it's why I run Calling Arc over Valiant Brawl, because I don't have to fight for that additional 5% critical hit damage or damage increase on a Valiant Brawl, which costs me 7 skill specialization points. I can just throw Supreme Burst into my skill tree, save 7 skill specializations, and have Calling Arc, which adds burst stacks and AoE damage. Significantly better than Valiant Brawl. Do not run Valiant Brawl unless you are revolving your skill, your build around it, which I wouldn't recommend. Ultimate Impact will be applied to Mortal Wrath. This increases the damage boost by 225%, but I do lose defense by another 200. So you kind of become a glass cannon, but your Victor's Morale from your Greatsword, which we have a lot of added passives to that, will keep you alive, as well as the Blade Harvest epic rank mastery from your greatsword tree. So it doesn't really matter if you lose the defense as long as you keep attacking, you will stay alive. Next, we're going to be moving into precise brutality, which applies to retaliatory strike. This brings my retaliatory strike critical hit chance by 314 because it halves it by 50%, but it adds 11% critical hit damage to the build. That's what I'm saying. Even though my critical hit damage looked low on the stat board from when I was showing you guys the stat details, all these other abilities are just adding critical hit damage constantly. So that brings my critical hit damage. Everything together, I'm estimating around 70% critical hit damage total, which is pretty damn good. All right. We're going to be running the precise control passive because this increases our hit chance by 15% for spear controlled skills. Keep in mind we use a lot of spear controlled skills, and as I had said, spears struggle with hit chance. So because of that, you will be running this. You have to run this. If you're not running this, okay, my recommendation will at least run hit chance on everything else. Now, my hit chance is pretty good. I necessarily don't need this skill. If I wanted to, I can always spec into Malice Surge or Malice Master, so I'm not hitting. And this will increase my activation chance by 7.5%. But keep in mind that this is more a situational skill for me for boss killing, and this is more situational towards everything else. I'm mostly fighting mobs than anything else, so that's why I chose the precise control. The last passive that we're going to be going over on this tree is going to be sustaining guard. This adds to our survivability. Mortal Wrath restores equal health equal to 29% of base damage plus 4 damage, but decreases damage dealt by 20%. Do not be discouraged by the decreased 20% damage because you guys have to remember, right? Even though we get that debuff, we have so much amplifiers for damage, it is ridiculous. And I'm going to show you guys one area we get a significant amount of damage. So use this if you want more survivability. If you want to spec more into damage, do not use this. Keep your 20% and try to throw your points into something else. Maybe you can throw your points into, as I said, Malice Master. So if you decide you don't want to go survivability route like I did, you can take all the points from this, which is your healing received and your melee evasion, and you can move that to Malice Master. I mean, I've tested it. I personally like more survivability, so I went with this, but definitely go with Malice Master if you're not going to run Sustaining Guard. Just keep that in mind, you guys. Like, it's very possible to run it, and I don't have any other active skills on the tree. So, yes, try that out. Let me know what you think. All right, we're going to go over the applied effects for each weapon. Weapon set 1 is going to be the Greatsword. These are the applied effects. I really like how this turned out. This is awesome. You guys take a nice, good, long look at this. And see, this is what I meant when I said the smaller points are going to be going to all these things on a Greatsword, which do activate your passives. Alright, we're now going to move to weapon set 2. And the reason I take a few seconds is because I want you guys to be able to really look at what your build is getting and what your tree is getting. What each weapon mastery tree is giving you. And then the total. Melee, critical hit chance, cooldown speed, everything else. All adds to the build. All these smaller stats will begin to add up. So just keep that in mind, you guys. Alright? This is your totals for everything. Alright? Last but not least, we're going to go over your overall mastery skills. The two that I run is Overcome Crisis because when my health is below 50, my attack speed increases by 20% instantly, cooldown speed by 35% for 5 seconds. That is a long time, and it only has a 1 minute cooldown speed. So if your health is constantly fluctuating, whether it be against a boss or anybody else, every minute you're going to be getting that increased attack speed and that increased cooldown speed, allowing you to continue to dish out attacks. The second ability I run is Destruction Spear. Upon landing 7 attack skills, fires a destructive spear that deals 240% of base damage to a single target. Stacks once per skill, has a cooldown of 5 seconds. That's fucking crazy. 5 seconds. So every time I ring out 7 attack skills, which our attack skills are going to ring out extremely quickly. And don't worry, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys how fast this build hits. Alright. So I get 240% of base damage to a single target, dude. Like that's crazy work, man. Crazy work. So that's why I'm saying that 20% you lose from the tree, from the sustaining guard, you're literally gonna get that all right back by continuing. Oh my god, I'm stuttering. Your attack patterns. So yes, this is another thing that makes up for a lot of damage we do lose. So that 20% decrease is measly compared to what we gained from the build. So there you guys go. Uh, I want you guys to look at the spear tree one more time and let me know what you think. Alright, you guys, that's going to be the end of the build video. It was a long one, but I figured covering every aspect of every detail of the build was pretty important. Now, I'm fully aware that September 18th T3 gear is going to be released, and I figured why not release a build video for the guys who are still grinding T2 gear so that they would have a build viable enough to grind T3 gear. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about the build, and if there's anything that you guys want to add to it or anything you guys want to do, let me know. Just so you know, if you guys noticed, the build has not been traded out, and that's because I'm saving my unlock stones specifically for T3. So I hope that this build video was helpful. I hope that you guys liked it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And once again, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if the build is good. Let me know if you guys want to make the build. I'll catch you guys later. This is Army Wolf Gaming. Peace out.